There are times when life grows unexpectedly quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because something greater is beginning to take shape beneath the surface. You may notice that things are slowing down, that certain doors remain closed, and that your usual sense of direction feels less certain than before. In these moments, it can feel as though you are being held in a space you did not choose, where answers are delayed and clarity has not yet arrived. Yet this stillness carries a depth that is not immediately visible. It is not empty, it is deliberate. Ibn Arabi described such phases as a hidden preparation, where the soul is gently guided away from what is familiar, so it can be aligned with what is yet to come. What appears as delay is often a careful arrangement, unfolding beyond the reach of immediate understanding. And sometimes, what feels like nothing moving in your life is actually the quiet beginning of something far greater than you expected. The quiet that holds meaning. There are moments in life when everything seems to grow quiet in a way that feels unfamiliar. The noise you once lived within begins to fade, and the movement you were used to no longer surrounds you in the same way. At first, this quiet can feel uncomfortable. It may seem as though something has been taken away, or that life has paused without explanation. But this stillness is not a void. It carries a meaning that is not immediately visible. In the understanding of Ibn Arabi, silence is not simply the absence of sound or activity. It is a space where deeper truths begin to reveal themselves. When distractions fall away, you are gently brought closer to what is essential. The outer world becomes quieter, so that the inner world can be heard more clearly. What once kept your attention occupied begins to loosen its hold, creating room for a different kind of awareness to emerge. This quiet often arrives without warning. It may come through changes you did not plan, or through a slowing down of things you once relied on. What you expected to continue may pause, and what you thought was certain may no longer feel the same. In these moments, it is easy to believe that something is wrong, or that you are being left behind. But in reality, you are being drawn into a different depth of experience. The soul, as Ibn Arabi describes, is not always meant to move in constant motion. There are times when it is gently withdrawn from the noise of the world, so it can return to a more grounded awareness. This is not a loss of direction, but a refinement of it. You are not being distanced from your path, you are being brought closer to its true meaning. In this quiet, you may begin to notice things you once overlooked. Subtle thoughts, small feelings, and quiet realizations start to surface. These are not random, they are part of a deeper conversation that can only be heard when everything else softens. What seemed unimportant before may now carry a new kind of clarity. It is also in this stillness that attachments begin to reveal themselves. What you depended on for certainty may no longer feel as stable, and this can create a sense of unease. Yet this is part of the unfolding. When what is unnecessary begins to fall away, it makes space for something more aligned to take its place. The quiet is not removing things without purpose. It is creating room for what truly belongs. This phase requires a different kind of trust, not the kind that relies on visible progress, but the kind that rests in what cannot yet be seen. You are being asked to remain present without needing immediate answers. To stay within the stillness without rushing to fill it. This is not easy, but it is deeply transformative. What appears as emptiness is often a form of preparation. The quiet holds a structure that is not obvious from the outside. Beneath it, changes are taking place that will later become clear. Just as seeds grow in darkness before they reach the surface, something within you is being shaped in ways that cannot yet be measured. So when life becomes quiet, it is not always a sign that something has ended. It may be a sign that something more meaningful is beginning to form. The silence is not there to leave you without direction, but to guide you inward, where a deeper understanding is waiting to unfold. You may come to see that this quiet was not an interruption. It was a necessary part of becoming who you are meant to be. When what once fit no longer does, there comes a stage in the journey where the things that once felt natural to you begin to feel unfamiliar. What used to bring comfort may no longer reach you in the same way, and what once felt certain may now feel incomplete. This change does not always arrive with clarity. It can feel subtle at first, like a quiet shift within you that you cannot fully explain. You may find yourself moving through familiar routines, yet sensing that something is no longer aligned. Conversations may feel different. Goals that once motivated you may no longer carry the same weight. Even the paths you once followed with confidence may begin to feel narrow or distant. This can create a sense of confusion, as though you have lost something you once understood. But in the perspective of Ibn Arabi, this is not a loss. It is a sign that your awareness is expanding beyond what it once was. When the soul grows, it naturally outgrows certain forms. What once fit you perfectly begins to feel limited, not because it was wrong, but because you are no longer the same person who needed it. This stage can feel uncomfortable because it removes the sense of familiarity you once relied on. You may try to return to what felt stable, hoping it will feel the same again, but often it does not. The connection has shifted, and what once held meaning may now feel distant. This is not a failure. It is part of a deeper unfolding. Ibn Arabi spoke of the soul's journey as a continuous unveiling, where each stage reveals something new while gently dissolving what came before. In this process, you are not losing direction. You are being guided beyond the limits of your previous understanding. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that you are off your path. It is a sign that you are moving into a wider one. During this phase, it is common to feel as though you are in between worlds. The old no longer fits, but the new has not yet fully appeared. This in-between space can feel uncertain, even isolating at times. You may not be able to explain what is changing within you, and others may not fully understand it either. Yet this space holds an important purpose. It is here that the soul begins to release what it no longer needs to carry. Old identities, expectations, and attachments begin to loosen, making room for something more aligned to take shape. This does not happen all at once. It unfolds gradually, often in ways that are not immediately visible. You are not being asked to force clarity or rush into something new. You are being asked to allow this transition to happen naturally, to recognize that growth often requires letting go of what once felt right, so that something deeper can emerge. What no longer fits is not being taken from you without reason. It is being moved aside because it can no longer contain who you are becoming. And even if it feels uncertain now, this shift is not leading you away from your path. It is guiding you closer to the version of it that truly belongs to you. The work that happens within. There is a kind of work that does not show itself on the surface. It does not bring immediate results, nor does it draw attention from the outside world. Yet it is among the most important work you will ever experience. It happens quietly, within you, in ways that are not always visible but are deeply transformative. You may feel as though nothing significant is changing. Your outer life may appear the same, and there may be no clear signs of progress. But beneath this stillness, something is being refined. Your thoughts, your intentions, and your awareness are being gently reshaped. This is not a process that can be measured quickly, because it belongs to a deeper level of your being. Ibn Arabi reminds us that true transformation begins inwardly before it ever appears outwardly. The soul is not shaped by what is seen, but by what is understood within. When you are placed in a phase where external movement slows down, it is often because your inner world is being prepared for something greater. During this time, you may begin to notice subtle changes in how you respond to things. Reactions that once came quickly may now pause. Thoughts that once felt certain may now be questioned. You may feel more aware of your inner state, even if you do not fully understand it. These are not small changes. They are signs that something deeper is taking place. This inner work often involves releasing what no longer serves you. Old patterns, quiet fears, and long-held assumptions begin to surface, not to overwhelm you, but to be seen clearly. When they are brought into your awareness, they begin to lose their hold. This is how the soul is refined through recognition, not force. It can feel challenging at times, because this process asks you to face parts of yourself you may have avoided. There is no distraction here to carry you away. You are invited to remain present with what arises, to observe without rushing to escape. In this presence, something begins to shift. What once felt heavy starts to loosen, and what once felt unclear begins to settle. Ibn Arabi spoke of the heart as a place of constant transformation, where understanding is not fixed, but continuously unfolding. In this inner work, your heart becomes more receptive, more open to what is real and lasting. You begin to see beyond appearances and to understand life from a deeper perspective. This process does not happen all at once. It unfolds gradually, often in ways you only recognize later. What feels like a quiet period is actually a time of careful preparation. You are being shaped from within, so that when change arrives in your outer life, you are ready to meet it with clarity and steadiness. It is important not to underestimate this phase. Even if nothing around you seems to be moving, something within you is being aligned with purpose. The work you are doing now may not be visible, but it is essential, because what is built within you will guide what unfolds before you. And when the time comes for things to move forward, you may realize that this quiet inner work was not separate from your path. It was the very foundation of it. When answers are not immediate, there are moments in the journey when questions arise, yet no clear answers follow. You may find yourself searching for understanding, looking for signs, or hoping for clarity that does not come as quickly as you expect. In these moments, it can feel as though you are standing in a space where nothing is being revealed, where direction is unclear and certainty feels distant. This experience is not without purpose. In the understanding of Ibn Arabi, the absence of immediate answers is not a form of neglect, but a form of guidance that moves in a quieter way. When answers are delayed, it is often because the soul is being prepared to receive them differently. What you are asking for may not yet be ready to be understood in the way it needs to be. The mind naturally seeks resolution. It wants to know, to define, to settle uncertainty as quickly as possible. But not all understanding can be reached through quick conclusions. Some truths require time, not because they are hidden without reason, but because they unfold in layers. Each layer reveals something new, and each stage of awareness allows you to see more clearly than before. When answers do not arrive, you are being invited into a different kind of relationship with your own experience. Instead of rushing toward clarity, you are asked to remain within the question itself. This may feel uncomfortable at first, because it removes the sense of control that comes from knowing. Yet within this space, something deeper begins to develop. Ibn Arabi often pointed toward the idea that true knowing is not always immediate. It is something that grows through presence, through patience, and through a willingness to remain open. When you do not force answers, you allow understanding to come in a way that is more complete and more aligned with your inner state. It may seem as though nothing is being revealed, but this is not entirely true. The answers may not be appearing in clear words or direct explanations, but they are forming quietly within you. Your perception is shifting. Your ability to see beyond surface appearances is deepening. What once felt urgent may begin to soften, and what once felt confusing may slowly start to make sense over time. It is also important to recognize that immediate answers can sometimes limit deeper understanding. When something is explained too quickly, it may be accepted without being fully realized. But when clarity takes time, it allows you to grow into it. By the time the answer becomes clear, you are no longer the same person who first asked the question. You have expanded in a way that allows you to truly understand what is being revealed. There is a quiet wisdom in not knowing. It teaches you to trust beyond what is visible. It shifts your reliance away from constant certainty and toward a steadier form of awareness. You begin to see that not everything needs to be resolved immediately for you to continue moving forward. This does not mean that your questions are without importance. It means that their answers are arriving in a different way. They are being shaped within your experience through what you are learning, noticing, and becoming. What feels like silence is not an absence of response, but a response that is unfolding gradually. Ibn Arabi reminds us that timing is not separate from understanding. What is revealed too early may not be received fully, and what is revealed at the right moment carries a clarity that cannot be mistaken. The delay you experience is not a denial. It is a protection of meaning, ensuring that when understanding comes, it is complete. So when answers are not immediate, it is not a sign that you are lost or being overlooked. It is a sign that something is still forming, both within you and around you. You are being guided through a process that values depth over speed and alignment over quick resolution. What once felt unclear will begin to settle. The questions that once seemed unanswered will find their place within a broader understanding, and you may come to realize that the waiting itself was part of the answer. Because sometimes the space where nothing seems to be revealed is the very place where the deepest understanding begins to take shape. Subtle changes begin to appear. There comes a point in the journey when the stillness you have been moving through begins to shift in quiet and almost unnoticeable ways. Nothing dramatic announces itself, and there may be no clear moment where everything suddenly changes. Instead, small signs begin to appear, gentle indications that something within you and around you is no longer the same as it once was. These changes can be easy to overlook. They do not arrive with certainty or strong clarity. They come softly, like a slight difference in how you feel, how you think, or how you respond to what once affected you deeply. You may notice that situations which once unsettled you no longer carry the same weight. Reactions that once felt automatic now come with a pause, as if something within you has become more aware. In the understanding of Ibn Arabi, transformation does not always reveal itself through sudden shifts. It often unfolds gradually, through subtle movements that reshape your inner world before they become visible in your outer life. What is changing is not only your circumstances, but your perception of them. And this shift in perception is where true transformation begins. You may find that your attention is drawn toward different things than before. What once felt important may begin to lose its urgency, while something quieter, more meaningful, starts to hold your focus. This is not something you are forcing. It is happening naturally as your awareness aligns with a deeper understanding. There may also be a change in how you relate to time. The need to rush or to control outcomes may begin to soften. You may feel less urgency to push things forward and more willingness to allow them to unfold at their own pace. This does not mean you have lost direction. It means your relationship with movement is becoming more balanced and less driven by pressure. Another subtle change may appear in your sense of clarity. While you may not yet have all the answers, you begin to feel a quiet sense of steadiness within yourself. It is not loud or overwhelming, but it is present. A gentle knowing that you are not as uncertain as you once felt. This kind of clarity does not come from external confirmation. It arises from within, as a result of the inner work you have been moving through. Ibn Arabi often spoke of how the heart becomes a place of reflection, where deeper truths begin to reveal themselves when it is no longer clouded by distraction. As these subtle changes appear, your heart becomes more receptive. You begin to see things as they are, rather than as you once assumed them to be. This shift is quiet, but it is powerful. You may also notice that certain opportunities, ideas, or connections begin to appear in your life in unexpected ways. They may not seem significant at first, but they carry a different quality than what you experienced before. There is a sense of alignment within them, even if you cannot fully explain it. These are not random occurrences. They are part of a gradual unfolding that is beginning to take form. It is important during this stage not to rush ahead or demand immediate clarity. These subtle changes are delicate. They are forming in a way that requires patience and attention. If you try to force them into something definite too quickly, you may overlook their true meaning. Instead, you are being invited to notice them, to remain present with them, and to allow them to develop naturally. What is happening now is not separate from what came before. The quiet you experienced earlier was not empty. It was preparing you for this stage, where movement begins to return in a more aligned and meaningful way. The changes you see now are the result of that unseen preparation. These small shifts will begin to connect. What once felt like isolated moments will start to form a clearer direction. The subtle will become more visible, and the quiet changes will begin to shape your path in a way that feels steady and real. And you may come to understand that nothing appeared suddenly or without reason. It was all unfolding gently, step by step, in a way that you were always meant to grow into. A direction you did not plan. There are moments in the journey when life begins to move in a way you did not expect. The direction unfolding before you may not resemble the one you once imagined. What you carefully planned, what you thought would define your path, may begin to shift, making space for something unfamiliar. This can feel unsettling at first, as though you are being led away from what you once believed was certain. You may find yourself stepping into situations you did not choose, or facing changes that were not part of your intentions. The path ahead may not be clearly outlined, and the sense of control you once held may begin to loosen. In these moments, it is natural to question what is happening and why things are unfolding in this way. Yet, in the understanding of Ibn Arabi, not every direction is meant to be designed by the mind. There is a deeper guidance that does not always follow your expectations. What you plan is shaped by what you currently know, but what is prepared for you often comes from a place beyond your present awareness. This is why it may not look familiar. It is not limited by what you have already seen or experienced. When a new direction begins to appear, especially one you did not plan, it is not a sign that you have lost your way. It is often a sign that your path is being expanded beyond what you could have arranged for yourself. What feels unexpected may carry a deeper alignment than what once felt certain. This shift can require a different kind of trust. Not the trust that depends on knowing every step ahead, but the trust that allows you to move forward even when the full picture is not yet visible. You are being invited to release the need to control every outcome and to become more open to what is unfolding in real time. Ibn Arabi spoke of the journey as something that continuously reveals new dimensions of understanding. As you grow, the path itself changes, not to confuse you, but to guide you toward what is more true for you. The direction you once held may have been right for who you were at that time, but as you change, so must the path you follow. You may also notice that this new direction does not come with immediate certainty. It may begin with small steps, quiet inclinations, or subtle opportunities that seem different from what you expected. At times, it may even feel unclear or uncertain. But within this uncertainty, there is a quiet coherence that begins to form. This is because the path you are now stepping into is not being forced. It is unfolding in response to who you are becoming. It does not require you to fit into it in the same way your previous plans may have. Instead, it begins to shape itself around your growth, aligning with your deeper awareness. It is important in this stage not to compare this new direction with your old expectations. What you once imagined may have been limited by what you could see at that time. What is now unfolding carries a different depth, one that may only become clear as you continue to move forward. There may also be moments where you feel uncertain about whether to trust this new path. This is natural. When something does not match your previous understanding, it can feel unfamiliar. But unfamiliar does not mean misaligned. It often means that you are stepping into something that is beyond what you have known before. As you continue to move with this new direction, you may begin to see how each step connects. What once seemed unexpected will begin to reveal its purpose. The path will start to feel more coherent, not because it became predictable, but because you have grown into it. And you may come to understand what you thought you needed to plan was already being prepared for you in a way you could not have arranged on your own. A shift in how you hold things. There comes a quiet turning point in the journey where nothing outside may seem dramatically different, yet the way you relate to everything begins to change. The things you once held tightly, your expectations, your worries, your need for certainty, no longer carry the same weight in your hands. It is not that they disappear completely, but the way you hold them becomes lighter, more spacious, and less defined by urgency. This shift may be difficult to notice. It does not arrive as a sudden realization, but as a gradual softening. You may find that situations which once caused tension now pass through you with less resistance. Thoughts that once stayed with you for long periods begin to loosen their grip. Even emotions that once felt overwhelming now move more gently, without taking over your entire awareness. In the understanding of Ibn Arabi, this change is not about removing things from your life, but about transforming your relationship with them. The world itself may remain as it is, but your way of engaging with it becomes more balanced. You begin to see that holding on to everything with intensity does not bring clarity. It often clouds it. This shift is deeply connected to trust. Not the kind of trust that depends on everything going as expected, but a quieter trust that allows you to remain steady even when outcomes are uncertain. You begin to release the need to control every detail, and in doing so, you create space within yourself. When you hold things more lightly, you are not becoming indifferent, you are becoming more aware. You start to recognize what truly matters and what does not require your constant attention. This clarity allows you to respond rather than react, to move with intention rather than pressure. Ibn Arabi often spoke of the heart as something that must remain open and fluid, not burdened by excessive attachment. When you hold things too tightly, the heart becomes constrained. But when you allow space, the heart becomes a place where understanding can flow more freely. This is not a loss of care, it is a refinement of it. You may also notice that your relationship with outcomes begins to change. Where you once felt the need for things to happen in a specific way, you now feel more open to different possibilities. This does not mean you no longer have direction. It means you are less bound to a single form of how things must unfold. This shift brings a quiet sense of ease. Not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer carrying everything in the same way. The weight you once felt begins to lighten, not because your circumstances have completely changed, but because your inner approach has. It is also in this stage that patience deepens. You are less inclined to rush, less driven by the need for immediate results. You begin to understand that forcing outcomes does not bring them closer, it often creates resistance. By allowing things to unfold naturally, you move in alignment with a rhythm that is not rushed or strained. This transformation is subtle, but it is powerful. It changes how you move through your life, how you relate to others, and how you experience your own thoughts and emotions. What once felt heavy begins to feel manageable. What once felt urgent begins to settle. You may come to realize that this shift was not about changing what you hold, but about learning how to hold it in a way that no longer holds you back. When what was hidden becomes clear, there comes a moment in the journey when what once felt uncertain begins to settle into clarity. It does not arrive all at once, nor does it announce itself loudly. Instead, it unfolds in a calm and steady way, as if something that was always there is finally being seen as it truly is. What once felt hidden is no longer distant. It becomes clear, not because it suddenly appeared, but because you are now able to recognize it. Much of what you experienced may have felt unclear or incomplete. You moved through moments without fully understanding their purpose. You may have questioned why things were delayed, why certain paths did not open, or why you were guided into spaces that felt uncertain. At the time, these experiences seemed disconnected, but now, a different perspective begins to form. In the understanding of Ibn Arabi, clarity is not simply given, it is reached through transformation. What was hidden was not withheld without reason. It remained unseen because it required a certain level of awareness to be understood. As you have moved through the quiet, the uncertainty, and the inner work, your perception has changed. And with this change, what once felt unclear begins to reveal its meaning. You may begin to notice how past experiences connect in ways you did not see before. Situations that once felt like obstacles now appear as necessary steps. Delays that once felt frustrating now carry a sense of purpose. Even moments of confusion begin to make sense, as if they were guiding you towards something you could not have reached otherwise. This clarity does not always come in the form of direct answers. Sometimes it is felt more than explained. A quiet knowing settles within you, a sense that things are now understood in a deeper way. You no longer feel the same need to question every step, because there is an inner recognition that what has unfolded carries meaning. Ibn Arabi often spoke of unveiling, a process where layers are gradually removed so that truth can be seen more clearly. This unveiling does not happen instantly. It requires time, patience, and a willingness to move through what is not yet understood. But when it reaches its moment, the clarity it brings is steady and grounded. You may also notice that this clarity changes how you relate to your past. What once felt heavy may now feel resolved. What once felt uncertain may now feel complete. This does not mean that every detail is fully explained, but it means that you are no longer unsettled by what you did not understand before. It is important to recognize that this stage is not an ending, but a continuation. Each moment of clarity opens the way for deeper understanding. The path does not stop here, but it becomes more visible. You move forward with a clearer sense of direction, not because everything is known, but because what is needed is now seen. There is also a quiet sense of alignment that begins to emerge. What is unfolding around you starts to feel connected to what is unfolding within you. The separation you once felt between your inner state and your outer experience begins to lessen. Things begin to move with a coherence that feels natural rather than forced. What was hidden was not absent. It was simply waiting for the right moment to be revealed, and that moment arrives not through urgency, but through readiness. You have moved through the stages that prepared you to see clearly, and now that clarity becomes part of your awareness. And when you look back, you may begin to understand that nothing was random or without purpose. Everything was unfolding in a way that you could only fully see once you had become ready to understand it. There are seasons in life that do not reveal their meaning while you are inside them. They ask you to remain present without full understanding, to continue without seeing the complete picture. Yet these are often the moments where the most meaningful changes begin to take root. What feels delayed may be carefully timed. What feels unclear may be unfolding with a precision you cannot yet see. And what feels quiet may be carrying a depth that only becomes visible later. Ibn Arabi reminds us that not every transformation announces itself. Some of the most significant shifts happen in ways that are almost hidden, shaping you inwardly before they appear outwardly. So, if you find yourself in a phase where things seem still, it may not be a sign that nothing is happening. It may be a sign that something is being prepared with care, beyond what can be rushed or forced. And when it finally becomes clear, you may realize that what you were waiting for was also waiting for the right moment to reach you.